right, so I thought we'd start with the song Jingle Bells. We have the holiday seasons coming up, and this one's pretty ubiquitous. So we're going to teach it in the key of C. We're going to start with an open C chord, and this song involves 4 open chords, and we'll cover them as we get to them. So we're going to start with the C chord, which is the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, and then your 1st finger on the very 1st fret of the 2nd string, that's the B string. And then to strum, you only strum the bottom 5. You don't want to hit the top string. If you hit the top string, sort of sounds like a truck is driving through your chord. So we want to start with just the 5th string and strum all the way down through the bottom. And now the song Jingle Bells has 2 sections to it, sort of an A section and a B section, we'll refer to them as. So for the A section, we're going to start with the C chord, and we're going to play 4 beats per measure for 3 measures. So 12 total strums, and we're going to do it in this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll notice beats 1 and 3 were sort of a half strum. 1, and then beat 2 and all the way through. Beat 3, and then beat 4. So it'll be 1, 2, 3. Just like that for 12 total strums. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. And at that point, we're going to switch to the F chord. Now, if you've been playing guitar for a little bit already, you might have run into this F chord before, but I've got a trick for you. A normal F chord is not actually an open chord. It's what we call a bar chord. And your 1st finger flattens all the way across all 6 strings. You have to squeeze really hard, and then the other 3 fingers have to curl really well to stay out of the way of the other strings. But what we're going to do is make it a little bit easier, and we're going to do that by leaving off the top and the bottom strings. When you flatten your 1st finger in an F chord, your 1st finger covers 6 strings, but it actually only holds down 3 of those 6 strings. The top, the 1st string, the 2nd string, and the 6th string. So we're going to just hold down the 2nd string, and we're going to mute the other 2, the top string and the bottom string, by using the pads of our fingers to keep them a little bit flatter and just impact those strings a little bit. So when you strum, you get the same sounding F chord that you do when you play a full bar chord F. It's just a little bit easier to play, especially when coming from the chord C, because if you break it down, a couple of the fingers are still in the same place. Your 1st finger stays on the 2nd string, 1st fret. Your ring finger stays on the 3rd fret of the 5th string, and your middle finger is going to move down 1 string to the 2nd string on the 3rd string on the 2nd fret, and your pinky will take the 4th string on the 3rd fret. So from here, we've got 3rd fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret, and that's our F chord. And we're going to spend 2 measures on that, so 8 total strums. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. So, to recap, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go to our 3rd chord, and this is a G chord. Now, there are a number of ways to play a G chord, so if you see something telling you that it's different than the way I'm about to show you, it might also be correct. But here's how we're going to do it. We're going to switch our fingering up. We're going to use all 4 fingers this time. Middle finger will take the top string, 3rd fret, the 6th string. Your pointer finger will take the 5th string on the 2nd fret. The next 2 strings, the 3rd and 4th strings, will both be open. And then on the bottom 2 strings, you've got your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret and your pinky on the 3rd fret. So 3 fingers total on the 3rd fret, and then the pointer finger will be on the 2nd fret. And again, we're going to play this for 2 total measures, 8 total beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And at that point, we're going to go back to C for 1 measure. So that's our whole first phrase, the dashing through the snow portion of the song. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Just like that. Now for our second line, our second phrase, we're going to do essentially the same thing. We're going to play that C chord for another 12 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. Then switch to F for 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Then to G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. And then it will go to C for 2 beats. 1, 2, and then to G for 2 more beats. Now, if you have a little bit of trouble getting from C to G that quickly, you can just stay on the G chord, or you can stay on the C chord for that whole measure. But if you don't, it adds a little bit of an accent going into the next part, and the next part is the B section. So it makes sense to have a bit of a transition. But I want to cover everything we've done up to this point. So we're starting with C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, G. And at that point, we're going to start the main chorus of the song, the Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells, that part. So that'll be on a C chord, our original C chord, for 4 whole measures, 16 total strums. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. At that point, we're going to switch to F, 2, 3, 4, back to C, 1 measure each at this point, C, 2, 3, 4. And it's at this point that we introduce our last new chord. It's a D chord. And if you remember, on our very first episode, we talked about the D chord, but just in case you missed it, here it is again. Our first finger is going to go on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. We'll have our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, and then our 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. So it makes like a triangle if you think of them as connecting dots here. And you only want to strum the bottom 4 strings, excuse me. So we'll start at our D string and we'll strum down from the D string for our D chord. And again, this is going to last 1 whole measure. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like we did on the F and the C just a second ago. And then we're going to switch to G for 1 whole measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. So to recap that whole line, again, this is the first part of the Jingle Bells part. It will be C for 16 total beats, 4 total measures. 1, 2. And then we'll go to F. 1, 2. C. D. And then we'll recap, or we'll start the next line back on C again for another 16 measures, or 16 beats, excuse me. 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, F, C, G, C. And that's the entire chorus. So, to begin at the beginning, And that's how you play the chords to Jingle Bells. All right, so a lot of you might have gotten or might be getting your very first guitar for the holiday season. And if you are, you might be thinking about signing up for lessons. And if you're thinking about signing up for lessons, I have a few pieces of advice for you, some questions that you might be asking when you are seeking out a guitar teacher. Not every teacher is the same. In fact, no two teachers are the same. So it's important that you ask questions and that you find a teacher that you're comfortable with, who you think can help you accomplish your goals. And that brings me to the most important point, is to mention what your goals are. Do you want to learn to read music? Because some teachers don't teach how to read music. They teach exclusively in tablature. Do you want to not learn to read music? Do you just want to start playing? Is your goal to sit around a campfire and strum campfire songs? Because there are teachers that specialize in that as well. Have you tried other teachers and found something about them that just wasn't quite what you were hoping for? Whatever it is, you should be mentioning that to the person that you're talking to when you're signing up for lessons, wherever you sign up. And there are all sorts of things to consider. Are you wanting to try out for jazz band in high school or middle school? Are you wanting to start a band of your own? Are you wanting to understand music theory? There's a lot of things that can factor in, and most teachers can teach you some of it, but certain ones specialize along the way. If you wanted to take classical, for instance, there are places that specialize in classical guitar playing. There are teachers that specialize in jazz guitar playing that maybe aren't as versed in classical. So make sure you ask as many questions as you can and call around. Find some places that teach. Here in the Des Moines area, there is, for traditional lessons, there's Riemann Music, there's up-tempo music. There are all sorts of places that you can call. You should try calling your local shop, because I promise you they could use your business right now. But there's also less conventional programs, such as the Central Iowa Music Lab or School of Rock out in West Des Moines, where they take students from all different teachers and put them together and have them play songs together as a band. All of these things can factor into your ability to develop as a guitar player. So never take for granted that you're with the right teacher just because you were assigned to them. If you feel like you need something more, or if you feel like you have some specific goals in mind, you should tell the person that you're talking to about lessons everything that you want to be able to do while taking guitar lessons. And I encourage you to sign up, because spots are filling up quickly. Carol of the Bells by the Trans-Siberian Orchestra is sort of known as the metal Christmas song. It's the one that you hear all over the place. And we're going to talk about a few of the main themes on how to play it. And the first thing that happens in the song is this chord. Let me go to the clean setting here. Now this is a standard E minor bar chord. They're not playing the top, the string of the chord, the E itself. They're starting on the 9th fret of the 4th string and going 9, 9, 8, and then what I'm doing is lowering that note to a 7. If you listen to the song, you'll notice that the chord actually rings out all of those notes. So what they must have done is put a capo on the 2nd fret so that you could have this note, the G, and the F sharp down here ringing out at the same time. In lieu of a capo, I've decided not to use a capo on this, but in lieu of it, we're just going to go 9, 9, 8, 7. That's 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, 2nd string. And that's our opening chord. It's just an E minor chord with an added 2nd degree or 9th degree, depending on how you think of it. And about that point, that chord continues on, and during the intro, we hear the main theme for a song called God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. It's actually a cello part, but it's pretty easy to cop on the guitar. You're going to start on the lower octave of E on the the second fret of the fourth string. Play that twice, go down a string to the third string, fourth fret. Then we're going to follow that just straight down the E minor scale, second fret of the third string, fifth fret of the fourth string, fourth fret of the fourth string, and back to our E. So it's... Then at that point, you can go open if you'd like, the open D string, back to the second fret, back to the fourth fret, back to the fifth fret, and then back down the scale to the second and fourth frets on the third string. And all of that is happening over top of this chord. And so that happens for a little bit, and they have some bells dinging in the background, and then just like that, everything breaks, and we switch back to our, I'm going to switch it to the crunch setting on our bass katana here. We just have a big open E power chord. And that takes us to the next real part of the guitar section of the song. Now there's some other stuff happening, some ding dong, some bells happening in the background. But where we really come back in is a few bars later. We jump up to the 8th fret. Now there are a few ways you could play this. I'm going to show it to you on the the second and third strings. So I'm going up to the 8th fret on the second string, and I'm going to play 8 and then 7, 8, and then I'm going to go up a string to 9. Now, that plays 4 times just on its own, just like I just did. It also plays another 4 times on top of that, but while that second 4 times is happening, there's a harmony part that comes in. And that's the other part that I'm going to show you now. So we start with the 8, 7, 8, 9. If you need to, you can hammer on from 7 to 8. So that you only have to pluck 3 of the notes, and there's a little easier on your right hand. Then we're going to move up to the 12th fret on the second string and go 12, 10, 12, and then another 12 up a string. And now when you play that second 12, you have a couple options. I like to use a different finger. You can see I'm using my ring finger on the first 12 to the pointer, back to the ring, and then I'm using my middle finger on the other 12. That's not the only way to do it. You could flatten out and roll off of the third finger like that. That's a technique that's used a lot of times when you're trying to play 2 notes that are on the same fret but on different strings. So it's really down to your preference. But that's going to play 4 times also over top of the second 4 times of that first section. Then we hit our big, it's not really a chorus because it's a classical composition, it doesn't really have a chorus, but this is the moment where the whole band joins in on this one line. We've got the pianos, the cellos, the strings, the lead guitar, everybody playing this one line. Now, again, there are a couple ways you can play that, but the way I just played it, I ran up to the 12th fret, and I like to slide into that note. You're going to play it 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then go down the scale to the 10, up a string to the 13, then we're going to go to 12 on that second string and play that 3 times. Then you're going to go down further in the scale to the 10th fret, up a string to the 3rd string, 12th fret, back to that 10. So it's and then we're going to wrap it up with 12, 10, and here's the awkward part. The next note is a 9 on the 3rd string. Now your pointer finger at this point will be on a 10 on the second string. So the technique I've used to make that jump and to make it smooth is to sort of flatten the finger on the 10th fret of the second string, and the tip of my finger is touching that third string, which is a pretty common technique used to mute strings when you're playing lead guitar. But what I'm going to do is roll off of that 10 onto the next string and move back a fret all in one motion. And I try to do that in a way that leaves no gap between the notes. And that's really the struggle with this whole song, is to leave no gaps between the notes. Not just to build up speed and to play it with the intensity, but to leave no gaps. And to have that just flow nice and steady through. And then once you've gotten to that part, you're going to slide down. It's not actually a slide, but you're going to position shift down to the 4th fret. Or at least that's where I like to play it. I've seen this written out a few different ways. And we're going to use what's called a 3-note per string scale, which is something that we will be talking about eventually. And I'm going to start with my 4th fret, my first finger on the 4th fret of the G string. And the scale is going to go 4, 6, 8, which is the big stretch part of it. You don't have to actually have all 3 fingers in place, by the way. You can lift them as you go. So it's not quite as big of a stretch. Then move up a fret and down a string to the 5th fret of the second string. And you'll go 5, 7, 8. And then down on the next string, on the first string, you'll go 5, 7, and back to 5. And then up one string to the 8, back to the second string. So that repeats twice. What happens next is they sort of build up to this big moment where they're going to play that twice more, but only as high as that 8 on the second string. So 4, 6, 8, 5, 7, 8. Then jump back and do it again. Then do it one more time, but this time we're going to extend it. And what I did there is I went 4, 6, 8, down to the second string, 5, 7, 8, down another string, 5, 7, 8, and then I shifted, put my pointer finger on 9, and it's just a chromatic run up to this E on the first string. And that's sort of the big moment in that part of the song. We've come through the... And at that point, a few other things happen. That is the main theme of the song. What happens next, I want to show you also real quick, because it's, if you'll excuse the pun, it's instrumental to the song. So the guitars take a break, and it's just piano for a second. And what they're playing sounds like this. It's just straight down the E minor scale. Right when you hit that last E, or rather when the piano hits that last E, a couple of instruments come in. It's many instruments, strings, and the whole orchestra together. But it's that same scale. Just like that, and I played that on the 12th fret, the same place that we played the, again, the so-called chorus. So 12, 12, 10. Up a string, 13, 13, 12. Then we're going to go 10, 12, 10. Up a string to the third string, and it'll be 12, 12, 11. And then 2 9s. 12, 12, 10, 13, 13, 12, 10, 12, 10, 12, 12, 11, 9, 9. While that's happening, another guitar is playing it an octave lower. So again, those frets will be 9, I'm on the 3rd string here. It'll be 9, 9, 7, up a string, 10, 10, 9, 7, 9, 7, up a string again, 10, 10, 9, and then down to the E on the 7th fret of the A string, just like that. And that's all happening together in several octaves, so that's all 3 ways to play it. It's down here, down here starting on that last note, and then again the way the piano plays it is down another octave. And then all the themes sort of reprise throughout the song, and at the end everybody sort of loses their mind. But we don't have time to cover all the arpeggios and fancy lead work there at the end. But if you get this much of it down, you'll be able to play the bulk of Carol of the Bells by Trans-Siberian Orchestra.